Good morning or good afternoon. Sorry. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining this session. I hope we've all had the opportunity to view the fantastic film that's just been premiered through Facebook. I myself really enjoyed it. I think it's always so nice to see familiar faces and voices and to hear the young people interacting with older people there as they were discussing the changes that they've seen in the Machair environment over the years. So a really fantastic piece of work there. The film was a piece of work done jointly between the Junior Community in North Uist and the work that the research they'd already put into some work that was due to happen in a live situation before COVID hit. But it's fantastic that they've made this film and that we've been able to engage with this digitally. The partnership with Machair has worked really well. Machair was chosen as one of only 2 small museums in Scotland to receive the funding that was used to create this piece of work. So I'd now like to introduce Daniela Affeltra, who's the Outreach Education Officer for the Royal Society, and I'd like to give her the opportunity to say a few words.
Great, thank you so much, Joanna. It's lovely to see you all here today and everyone who's joined us on Facebook. As I've been introduced, my name's Daniela, and I'm here on behalf of the Royal Society this afternoon. For some context, the Royal Society is the UK's National Academy for Science, and I had the pleasure of meeting Mary from the museum when we funded the museum to carry out a project as part of our Places of Science scheme way back in 2018. So the project was, like I said, funded by our Places of Science scheme, which aims to reach local communities by telling local science stories and by providing funding for small museums across the UK. And I think this project is an exceptional example of success, and it's been wonderful to follow from the first instance of funding through the Projects Week and the Project Activities Week that had an excellent turnout, so I hear. And I think what's really important nowadays is that the value of people and places has never been more important. And it's such a pleasure to be invited here today to see how the museum and how other museums in Scotland have been able to adapt to these really unprecedented circumstances. And I think the video that's been produced is just really inspirational and embodies the history, the natural history of the island. And I think will really excite local communities and students, old and little, as well as people beyond, because it's online now, it can reach a far bigger audience, will hopefully inspire some people to come and visit you. And I really think that the impact of climate change that was touched upon in the video is also a really important message to show how it's not only affecting the environment, big cities, but also small local communities. So congratulations to the team. It is fantastic, and it is such a pleasure to be here with you today. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Daniela. I'm now going to introduce you to Fiona Machair. Fiona has worked as the Outreach and Education Officer at Machair and has now also been a volunteer for this project. So I'd like to hand over to Fiona just to say a few words, please.
Hi there, I'm Fiona Machair, and as Joanna just said, I was the Education and Outreach Officer at Machair during the time when we were setting up this exhibition, and when the kids were working towards it as well. So I'd like to kind of say a few words in Gaelic just to introduce you to the exhibition, and then I'll hand over to Mary, who'll say it in English. So I'm a gyrru fáidir leoibh díoch an dasmnig a seo van flánig an the Scottish to a gopel gecruig agus rinne opid once in maid kuch agus ha mi got tolly die go garm an den echt an opid de hield in your line gehadet as se linie haan linie coronavirus maar a ve. So neist ha mi to da gyrru madi pekken fachtene da kuch.
Go ahead and unmute yourself, Mary. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Well, Tapalat, Fiona. Fiona has been the backbone of the exhibition. She's been responsible for so much of the work in school, particularly with all her skills in art and Gaelic. It's a bilingual project. The Gaelic is very, very central to everything we've been doing. And as a recent piece of research has shown, the language is in decline, and Comunechtaí are really intent on finding every way possible of strengthening both community and general use of Gaelic throughout. The children were very disappointed. They were due to come in, hang the exhibition with us, all using recycled materials when COVID struck. And so we'd like to thank the Cora Foundation through the third sector for granting us the money to work with St Andrews, the team of Sarah and Catherine and Ian and Alan, with whom we've worked, I think, for at least 6 years now. A long history between us of exciting projects. So without any more ado, I think we will just show a brief promotional film that was made by Sarah Kennedy, who at St Andrews has been responsible for mounting the exhibition, if that's possible, Ian. I don't know, Ian, if it's possible to put up the 3 bird posters at the beginning of that exhibition together and kind of freeze it, perhaps. That might not work. Because Fiona was going to say a wee bit, weren't you, Fiona, about the trip?
Shall I just say a couple of words?
Just talk.
Okay. So at the beginning of the project, we went on a trip to Balranald with John Ferguson from SNH to have a look around and see kind of what we could find on the Machair, and record birds, record different wildlife and flowers, and just make a kind of like a record of the diversity of what was found down there, basically, and to give the children a sense of the many different species that you could just find on the Machair in Uist anyway. So it was a good day. We got an excellent day for it. I think it was probably one of the best days in that month. So that was good. And they recorded an awful lot of different birds, and the group I was with even found a female belted beauty moth, which was quite a novelty because they're completely flightless, so they don't look like a moth when you see it. So that was interesting for them. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Perhaps I'll say a wee bit about the flowers. We had a very long and rainy spring. So sadly, another hiccup, we couldn't do a trip out to see the flowers because they came after term had ended. However, we did some work on them during the activities week. I think I'll just add to the fact that the children's bird drawings, Fiona, were so impressive that they're on the panels and you can see the care they've taken. And Lorraine, our graphic designer, deserves a mention here. She's based in Tykesova, and she's been responsible with funding from the Royal Society for making the beautiful panels that would have been shown around the room. She's made some changes to them, and the children entered their bird drawings as posters in the mod, the local mod as well. They then had to transfer those skills in school to copying out some of the flowers that Loriana Pauli, a Swiss botanist who's settled in Berneret, had prepared for the activities week. She prepared a wonderful presentation, and the flower drawings that the children did next, which I think you can press on information panels to see in detail, Catherine. I think that's the case. They also excelled at using the book of reproductions that Loriana had done to draw their own impressions of the flowers. The whole school was part of this, and it's quite amazing that the whole 80 children participated in the project in one way or another, whether drawing birds or flowers, or in the trips. So after that, we did a little bit about bugs. And I think, Fiona, it might be good if you said a little bit about the importance of art as it is in terms of their passion, once they'd been out and looked at things, how much it affected what they were able to do back in school, and talk a bit about the mural, perhaps.
Absolutely. So shall I say a wee bit just now, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I think just.
Yes. So as you can see from the botanical drawings that they did when we went back to school, you can see kind of just the attention to detail that they had, and just the concentration as well, because it does take an awful lot of concentration, especially that age group, to draw in that detail. So they were very enthused from the trips, and just being able to kind of have a choice on the flowers that they wanted to draw themselves. I think that's quite important to just have a bit of personal choice. But I think art and the visual kind of disciplines are important in their learning. It's a way of kind of engaging your hands and your mind at the same time. So it's useful when you're kind of exploring these kind of scientific kind of concepts almost of the structure of the plant, to kind of have that fed back to you when you're drawing. So you're kind of constructing it yourself almost. And as well, when we came to doing the big mural painting in the school, that was really good as well, in kind of getting them to learn kind of about the structure of the dunes. While we were doing it, we were talking about the importance of marram grass in holding the sand together. We're kind of thinking about the dune environment as well, kind of when we were doing this painting. So you're learning how to paint, and you're learning about the science at the same time. So I think when you're doing something that you enjoy, I think it'll probably stick in your mind more. At least with me, it would. So yeah.
Well, I know that Fiona's input was absolutely central to the children understanding the science and being interested in it. And the funding helped us go out quite on the trips as well, especially during the activities week. We had 2 field trips during the activities week. And the first one was led by Rebecca Rennell, who is an archaeology lecturer at UHI, our local university. And on this occasion, there were 10 children in the filmmaking group, but there was an open invitation to others to join us on the beach, and quite a few families came up once we were down on the beach and followed the trip. And Rebecca told a story about how, I'd like to show the details of the panel, but I don't think we can at the moment. The children's writing, the children's drawing of the roundhouse, we were able to discover their comments about the colours of the sand. But Rebecca told us when she first arrived on the island, she looked and looked for a site and found that it had been submerged by the sea, and that was why she couldn't find it, pointing to how much the sea is encroaching and possibly drowning our island, which is low-lying and has lots of water, lacework of lochs anyway. So that was a very successful field trip. The children brought their finds back. We laid them out on a table and we tried to date them. And the second trip was a rock pooling trip with Joanne Ferguson from SNH. With the same format, people could join us. And that again was a marvelous day. And I think, Ian, if you can show the children's film now, you'll see the results of the activities week in the film. I don't know if it can fill the whole screen, can it? Thank you.
We went to Ballasher Beach on the second day and did some rock pooling. A woman called Joanne was talking about different seaweeds and how some of them save us from bad storms. The seaweed acts as a barrier and cuts down the speed and height of the waves. There had been an archaeological dig on Ballasher Beach in the 1980s where they uncovered a wheelhouse in the dunes. Becky, the archaeologist, had gone with a map where the dig had been, but couldn't find it. She then discovered that it was underwater.
I remember seeing the dark sand on the wheelhouse. The wheelhouse was round because half of the house was underground and the other half above the ground and built out of rock.
We went to the beach and we found something and it was called a sea squirt. It was like a pea pod, but it was like a seaweed colour. It was like a brown or like a orangey colour. And it was like really slimy and like sticky and it like didn't feel very nice. And we could only find one. We couldn't find any more. But we were trying to look for some more, but we couldn't.
We found it in amongst the seaweed, and at first we thought it was a fish, but then we picked it up and there was like gooey stuff coming out of it. We were told that it's a piece on the end of a seaweed.
And that we were told that it would go into the water, well, to the ocean, and it would lay down on a, well, not lay down, but like stick on a rock, and it started like sprouting out. It would like start like growing, and then it would be really big.
Channé sé glé chóra uair a haisine Cladach féminist. Chanélia tían uamsach trí gan sa bhela head. Snúri hiki stocha nach chéú déisial is on a gáil gahirí. Sme gémas tú contactar a virus dé hang cosca sound. Sai na serotour galta éing. Chemicals sinna ha hula duine Cladach ganis.
There is no seaweed being washed up at the shore at Middle-Quarter in the last 20 years or more. In my father's time there was plenty of seaweed, but now we hardly get it. We would have barely enough to do potatoes, never mind the whole croft.
No, unfortunately we don't use seaweed as fertilizer now. Seaweed is very useful stuff, but we use commercial fertilizer now.
So I think we're nearly approaching the round table. If you could just put the bits up on full screen, Ian, and that would probably help. We'll just run through a sequence of the children's research, if we may. The first bit of research there was an evaluation of the birding trip, and the second bit is the same, Ian, if you move on to that. The next bit is an oral evaluation of what the children did. I can't really see it, so because it looks wee on my screen. The third one was just a very detailed comment about actually looking through the microscopes that Joanne Ferguson produced, and how inspirational that came out very high in there as one of the things they'd enjoyed, the looking through the microscope. One child did an oral interview, transcribed it from the Gaelic. She did it in Gaelic. The children worked on the Gaelic questions and the English questions, and interviewed a range of the crofters that the big film that Tom Dawson made was based on. And this particular child actually transcribed the Gaelic and translated it into English, which was, I think, very impressive. Often they didn't know the Gaelic names for birds or flowers, and one of the important things we felt, if you put up the next one, is to find those names in Gaelic for the common bugs. These are the bug names. And there might be a photograph of a bug. And there's also going to be on the CEUT website, there's the photograph of the bug. On the CEUT website, which we are launching today, there'll be links to many of these resources. And we could have had a link to our friends in Portugal, where the school had done a project on drifter boats. And there was a lot of linking between a school in Portugal and School Uist. But they're doing a 2-day workshop on launching their new ocean literacy platform. I don't think we've got time to show the film they sent, but we'll put a link to it on the website. And I'm now going to quickly introduce Aurora, if she's there.
Yeah. So,
thank you. And Aurora has been amazing in helping us try to navigate social media. So Aurora, just say a little bit about your placement and what you've been doing.
Yeah, so I got in touch with Mary. It's a long story. I was meant to be doing a placement with a very similar organisation, museum and heritage centre in Italy, but obviously it got cancelled. So I got in touch with Mary, and I'm doing quite similar work with CEUT. I've been working alongside Anna Black, who can't be here today. We're trying to promote CEUT, this exhibition, but also the new website as well, through as many different platforms as we can think of, basically. So currently we have a Twitter, Instagram, Facebook pages. We've been working on this a lot in the last week, and would say that Instagram and Facebook are by far the most popular at the moment. But we're also thinking of setting up a TikTok profile, which might sound a bit random, but TikTok is obviously a growing platform with a huge following. And for those of you who aren't quite sure what TikTok is, you basically just upload a 60-second video on anything, but a lot of museums and sort of heritage centres are using TikTok, or beginning to use TikTok, because they recognise that the main demographic on TikTok are 13 to 21-year-olds. It's a really good way of engaging with that age group. So just to give a little idea, the Carnegie Museum, the Natural History Museum in Pittsburgh, uploaded a 60-second video about snails, with some jokes about snails, and it got 1 million likes. I don't know if we'll be quite as popular as that, but I think the idea we've had at the moment is to get people, locals, to discuss objects in their houses that have some relevance to North Uist, and to talk about them, memories, stories, and we'll take it from there. And we also want to put up some very simple puzzles on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So, for example, guess the object. We'll put up a photo of an object, again, something to do with life out here from the recent past. Get people to guess what it is, when it might have been used, what it was used for. I think that's it, Mary. I think that covers most of it.
Yes,
yeah, I think
thank you.
That's right. Yeah.
That's amazing. I don't know what we'd have done without Fiona, Aurora, and Anna, who sadly can't be with us. But I think the time has come now to move on to the round table bit. You've had some idea of what we've been up to, and I'm going to ask Joanna now to lead the discussion and introduce possibly shortly again some of the participants, the key participants. But it's open to anyone to ask a question. I think, Catherine, you'll be able to talk about that.
Great, thank you very much, Mary, and thank you everybody that we've heard from just now. I mean, it's clear that this has been a really excellent piece of work, and that the young people in North Uist who've been involved in this have had a huge learning opportunity from talking to the older generations, to learning about the natural environment and the changes and things that have been going on, and linking it all through art and digital work as well. It's just fantastic. So I'm just going to go around. There's a few people to introduce. We should have been welcoming Uist Robertson at this point, who is the chair of Community Uist. Unfortunately, by the power of other digital media, he has sent me a text message to say that he's stuck in a meeting at the moment. So if he joins us, perhaps somebody could alert me, but yeah, I don't think he's online just yet. In his absence, we do have Christine Rintoul with us. She is the secretary of the Community, and we have Norman MacLeod from Machair, who I don't think we have introduced so far today. In addition, the project's been given a huge amount of support from the museums team. We have Katrina McCush with us today, I believe, though I haven't seen her yet. We have Ashley Ferrier, who's the collections officer from Museum Nanyelin. And we have Catherine Cassidy with us from St Andrews Open Virtual Worlds. We have Dr. Ian Oliver, also from Open Virtual Worlds, and Sarah Kennedy from Open Virtual Worlds, who's constructed the virtual exhibition. Daniela is still with us, I hope, and I would invite you all to participate in the discussion that we're going to have now. So as a kind of starting point, I think it might be worth maybe going round that group of people and asking for anybody who would like to say a few words about how we build resilience through digital heritage. You know, we've all been through a huge change this year. We've all had to adapt how we work and where we work, and how people access everything in the world has changed significantly. So today's example of doing this digitally is one way, but perhaps we could explore a little bit more about how we build resilience through digital means. Would anybody like to kick that off?
Perhaps Catherine will.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, I'm Catherine. I am from the University of St Andrews and with the Open Virtual Worlds team, so also with Ian and Sarah, who built the virtual museum. We work pretty exclusively with museums, heritage institutions and museums with digital heritage and digitizing their heritage. And all of this leading up into lockdown, into COVID, we knew that it was important and try to take on projects doing that and to show that. And then here it was as a biggest case study of them all to say, yeah, this is a way to go and to build resilience within the museum and within the museum sector. That digital needs to be very, very strong point in the entire museum's strategy, not just digital strategy, but thinking about what can be done and what can be used to enhance what can already be there and reach audiences that, you know, may never be able to see it. And I think this is an excellent example where you took an instance where all of a sudden everything looked like it was going to be, nope, it can't happen anymore, and spun it on its head and said, no, we're going to be able to provide this in a way that maybe even a greater audience can see it, but then also the students can still use it as a resource to discuss, teachers can still use it in the school to discuss, and the wider community as well. So I think this is a fabulous, I think, what has been done here, and we're just, you know, happy to be able to facilitate it to a degree.
Thank you. I don't know if, no, sorry. I was wondering if Christine might like to say something on the spot, sorry, Christine, in Uist's absence, about CEUT's role.
You're muted at the moment, Christine.
Oh, well.
Hi, Christine. Ian, can you turn the mute off?
Is it all right now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, gee. See, this is it. Part of what I was going to say, apart from on behalf of Common Actory, you know, to express really our gratitude to those of our members like Mary herself, who doesn't take any thanks for anything, and the team who have worked on it, Anna and Aurora, and of course Fiona. We're really grateful to the efforts and the work that they've put in to produce this, especially in the time of COVID, when we thought the children's exhibition and the work and the hard work that they've done wasn't going to be seen or come to light. So this collaboration with St Andrews and the funding which was provided by the Royal Society and the Cora Foundation shows the benefits of collaboration anyway. And Museums Gallery Scotland's another one that, you know, have really been supportive to us. But we were conscious that we would have to become more digitally aware anyway. But this crisis has obviously made it clear that we have to maximize all opportunities to present ourselves in a digital way. So to all those who have brought this launch about, you know, Common Actory, which is a volunteer or led organisation, is very, very grateful. I've just been on the fringes of it in terms of the activities week, but I'm conscious of the hard work of everybody else. So we will all, as a board of trustees and as members, try and bring ourselves up to speed in whatever way we can to make ourselves more digitally experienced. So, but with the help of others, and I think the collaborative part of it is very, very important. Mary, should I say something else?
I think that's lovely, Christine. Thank you. And I just think if Norman could say something from the museum and exhibition end.
You need to come off mute.
Is he there?
Yeah, Norman's there, but I think you
he's muted as well.
But Alan, if you're there, are you able to say a few words about digital resilience in a time of COVID?
The digital resilience in a time of COVID. I can. Ian, can you? Are you able to talk about digital resilience? Are you able to unmute people?
I can request that people unmute themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Unmute them.
Oh, so Norman, you're now unmuted.
Okay, thanks very much.
You were saying some stuff.
Yeah, we've actually worked together since 2012. I think it was the first project, the Virtual St Kilda. And that's when we started the junior community as well, just to keep the sort of Gaelic language and the culture going. I think then we worked for, this will be a fourth project with community. So compared to other organizations, we're well ahead of the field. Next year, we're working on the Campido project. So you might say a little bit about that, Alan, where we're doing an exhibition called Uist, which will be researching the music of Uist back from the bards of the very early days, right up to the modern day of Ben Lee, Cayley Band, and many other famous musicians that have come from the island. And St Andrews, we put this together as a sort of, maybe a virtual jukebox of some sorts. So at the moment, we've done some research, and we've just put an application into Portrait Gaelic for some more research funding. With the coronavirus, obviously, it's going to be very difficult to do face-to-face interviews. So we might have to try and set something up that's going to be more of a virtual interview. But this is not a bad thing, because this will actually show it's a sign of the times. Maybe just say again that, you know, we've got eight years of experience with St Andrews. I think we're good at the ideas and they're good at the design, so it's a very good partnership and works very well. Over to you, Alan.
Oh yeah, so we're very much looking forward to doing a project looking at the music of Uist. I mean, of course, we were in the St Kilda project. We did some recordings. Some of it I thought was really very powerful in the Gaelic music, and some great flute playing. Maybe Mary, you want to put some names to the participants.
Well, this is such a long time ago, but it was probably the first project where we involved the children and the recording of local music and got the children researching. There were 3 primary schools then on North Uist, and 2 of them were involved. One was a Gaelic medium school who interpreted the bird life through movement, and the other was an English medium school, Lochmaddy, who wanted to use the curriculum of excellence and look at health. We also collected folk tales, and Alan came up and filmed the children doing their various bits of movement, drama, telling stories, but situated it all within the virtual St Kilda. It was very powerful, I agree. And certainly when I tell the students that we're doing this because they're all students of a university now, it gives them a huge boost and they get very excited. I think that reenacting and dramatizing or filming aspects of the past gives the children a real purchase on their belongingness, their identity and their language. I wonder if Daniela is available, perhaps, because I can see the time is running through. Joanna, would you like to invite Daniela to say something perhaps about her perception from the Royal Society's view?
Yes, of course. Daniela, over to you.
Thank you very much. You'll have to excuse, my dogs have decided now's the opportunity to play and touch in the background, so ignore that noise. Yes, I think it's something that everyone had in their mind, how important it was to get into these digital technologies and starting to take what we do online. But I don't think anyone anticipated that we'd be forced into it in quite the way that we have, and have to adapt to things quite the way that we have. I think Aurora, you mentioned TikTok. I think that was something that was outside of my periphery entirely before lockdown, and now it's almost like a daily thing that I engage with for your usual comedy things that you mentioned, but also from a cultural and heritage and science perspective as well. There's some really good content on there, and I think for you, as for your community as well, I think it's the opportunity to take what you do, which I think is absolutely fascinating, to a very broad audience and show them that these pockets of Gaelic and tradition really still do exist, and give people the opportunity to engage and learn, particularly for people local to Scotland. It might not be something that they are necessarily familiar with. So I think that's a really fantastic opportunity. And I think it's, for us, certainly from the Royal Society perspective, trying to find that balance and trying to do it well is going to be the tricky bit. But it sounds like you're off to a great start. And I think everyone's in the same position. And I think people are a lot more tolerant now to the challenges that we're facing and willing to engage with that digital content. Someone said to me the other day, we're starting with people with a bit of a head start, because people have been living like this for the last 6 months. So people are used to it. People are more willing to sit down and watch something on their computer than maybe they would have been when restaurants, pubs, etc. were running at normal capacity. So we have an audience, and we just need to capture them and give them what they want, which I think is very much in line with what you're doing. So yeah, I can only just say congratulations, and you're taking fantastic steps in the right direction. And I will look out for you on TikTok.
Thank you very much, Daniela. Something that I would like to sort of bring forward in the conversation, resilience is one of these words. It's a bit like innovation. Everybody looks at it from a slightly different angle and considers different aspects of resilience. Now, what we've talked about so far is overcoming a public health barrier that was going to stop you from having an exhibition, but you have used digital heritage in a way to overcome that public health barrier so that you're still engaging with an audience. But there are other aspects to resilience that I think fit neatly in with this. So, we've looked at the fragility of the Gaelic language, the fragility of our physical environment, etc. And I just wonder whether anybody's got any views on how digital heritage can actually be used to overcome some of these barriers, or to tackle things such as our population challenges, our climate change challenges, our challenges with trying to protect the Gaelic language. So if anybody would like to come in on any of those, that would be great.
Can I come in? I wasn't sure if somebody else was about to speak there. I'm Catriona from Museum na Nélin. We are quite a bit behind Comunidad Uist, probably in many respects when it comes to digital engagement, because as Norman was saying, they've been engaged with St Andrews on virtual reality platforms for the last 4 years. However, we do have various social media platforms that we've been using, and since lockdown, there was a project for the Year of Coasts and Waters, which had just started and had to basically overnight become a virtual project. So that project also had, it's a Gaelic project as well, as bilingual. So it has actually created a lot of Gaelic material that will now be available online, and will be a resource that can be used by learners and engaging new people with the language as well. So it's opened it out to maybe a wider audience than it may have if it had only been the original project. So I suppose it's it's thinking about how you can engage with different audiences, new audiences, but it's also, I suppose, in terms of resilience, also thinking about your existing audiences and how you're keeping them engaged when they can't physically come to the museums. Because when we're able to reopen, we will want people to re-engage. And I suppose digital is good, but I think people will crave the real life experiences probably afterwards as well. But it's then, how do we still use digital within the galleries as well after that, so that people, you know, they're not losing the digital experience completely, but it's adding to the experience.
I think that's sorry.
No, I think that's gone, Alan.
Oh yeah, I think that's a great point. I think one of the things that we've been thinking about quite a lot is, you know, assuming that people are coming back into galleries, how does the digital really, you know, kind of fit with that? And I think one thing that we've been thinking about is that, you know, where everybody who kind of walks into a museum does so with a touchscreen, you know, with a personal touchscreen that's in their pocket, that's called a mobile phone, you know, and actually to be able to use that in the way, you know, to enhance the interpretation and to enhance the visit, I think is a really promising thing. But, you know, I think, you know, apps in that context don't really work, you know, because you don't want someone to sort of walk into the museum and having to, you know, download their app and go through, and then, you know, presumably when they finish with it, then get it off their system at the, you know, at the end of it. And the internet doesn't really work, because sometimes the internet doesn't work anyway, you know, in you know, a lot of museums are in old buildings with thick walls and all that sort of thing. So we Catherine, I think, has been like thinking about this sort of idea of a sort of personal virtual museum, or a local virtual museum, which is all in one box, and you can walk up to it and it streams the content, and it streams it from locally. So it doesn't matter if there's a dodgy internet connection around the back, and it provides kind of local interpretation. And I think that that's something that we would be really, and so I've kind of posed, but I think that's something we can do with the music project that's coming up. I mean, Norman, you were talking about sort of a jukebox, and I don't know how we mix it up with a jukebox or and with maps and timelines and kind of the relationship between the different sorts of music. And but we could certainly, maybe, you know, you can have a background music in the museum, but you can only have one in a particular space. Whereas if people are using their own devices, I don't know how much, you could get headphones for about 50p, can't you? So you could like sell people a headphone for £1, plug into their phone, as long as it's not one of these strange Apple devices where you need to use Bluetooth or something. But they're coming back, aren't they? Being able to plug headphones into phones. So I think that's something. And I think the other thing that might really be of interest is this sort of idea of a museum without walls, or, you know, doing museum things outside of the walls of the museum. Because, you know, if you set up to do that, then even if there is a pandemic, you can still do that. You know, it's safer walking around outside than it is inside, and that sort of thing. And I really hope not, but, you know, this whole pandemic thing may go on for quite a long time, mightn't it? So
it may indeed. Thanks very much for that, Alan. And I think, you know, it's an interesting concept, the sort of living museum, outdoor museum type experience. You know, I didn't actually introduce myself probably properly at the beginning. I work for Highlands and Islands Enterprise, and in working with the communities that we do, one of the things that we're always challenged by is how we help organisations like Uist or Tykersaba, for example, to be, how can they be financially resilient as well? So it's all very well looking at the, you know, the sort of community and social aspects of what they do, which are hugely, hugely valuable, but everything comes at a financial cost. Funds are not bottomless, and you know, how do you balance out achieving the ambitions of these organisations with a kind of value for money solution, and how do you ensure that these organisations are resilient, and it's not a case of funding a project which kind of comes and goes. You want things to last for the long term. So the kind of idea of maybe moving beyond physical buildings and expanding much more into the outdoors and into the digital world could be one of the solutions to that.
Yeah, I think there's a sort of concept just now that everything is for free, and I think that's going to change shortly. I mean, you can see it with musicians online where they've got their donate button. I mean, I think there have to be a charge due, and it's 50p a pound, and I think there is a financial a way of creating finance. I know certainly that we're moving our donate button to the front of the Tickerswell webpage probably the next week or so. And I think, you know, some of the models that we've done with St Andrews, these are living things. You know, the music can be added to over the years. The St Kilda story, that can be added to over the years. So they're alive, they're living, and they can go on for generations. And it's stored on a different platform.
Yeah, definitely one of the benefits of this way of working, because, you know, we have a situation where we actually can have exhibitions, as you say, Norman, that can last for years and years, rather than being up for a period of months and perhaps then boxed away, either never to be seen again or to be brought out many years later. Mary, you'd like to come in?
All I wanted to say was that we have a bid in at the moment to Historic Environment Scotland. Alan's been part of this, but to build on the Udal app, which has proved very successful, whereby you use your mobile phone to go around the archaeological site, and at certain points it pings into action and you get information. We're going to try and pilot, based on the Archaeology 360 installation, a series of similar walks around to and around the archaeological sites, but providing environmental, natural information, as well as the archaeology, which is already there. And so we're very much hoping we get funding for that enterprise, because I can see next year volunteers who are anxious to help and still volunteer. We may be going into healthy walking and conducting some guided tours as a way of piloting the information for this. And we already have engagement from the Macmillan programme with National Health Promotion. And I can see a series of walks aimed at different audiences, some of which during the summer might become money-making.
Excellent, thank you very much for that, Mary. Don't know if has anybody got any other points that they would like to make on the subject just now? No, unfortunately, I've just checked the list. Unfortunately, I don't see that Uist has been able to join us at all. That is a real shame. I'm sure he would have had some thoughts to share, but I think perhaps we might be reaching the end of our discussion. Is that okay? So I think all that probably remains is to thank everybody most sincerely for all your efforts, those who have volunteered, those who have helped on the digital side, everybody from St Andrews, Royal Society, etc. I hope I haven't missed anybody, but thank you very, very much for your input on this project on behalf of Commonwealth Uist. I think despite maybe a couple of little bumps at the beginning, this has worked very well. I've never done anything like this before, so definitely feeling my way through this, but I think we've proved that the technology can serve us incredibly well, and I hope that you'll be able to do more events like this in the future. Mary, is there anything you would like to say to close?
I'd just like to thank you, Joanna, for sharing this. Thank everybody who's come. And as you've just said, I think it is the way forward to have meetings like this. The Wednesday afternoon webinars with St Andrews are very useful. Alan, I don't know if you want to mention that. The only other thing I'd like to say before you do is how much collaborative work has happened with the Commonwealth volunteer team. The John Muir Foundation has given 22 children environmental awards, and 16 volunteers have gained environmental awards. I didn't realize the volunteers could get them, But when we awarded the children, they asked if we wanted to award volunteers. So the teamwork is just incredible.
Wonderful, thank you very much. I think on a very, very positive note, we can round off today's session, and I hope that we'll all meet again for another exhibition in due course. Thank you very much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Right.